fellas and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and once again it's time for the good old film reviews. I haven't done one of these in quite a while, and not since the Three Bears 1949, and you know, I watch that one back sometimes and I think, well, that was pretty good. So I'm now going to move on, because when I was watching the Three Bears, for some reason the same video kept on popping up next to it in its recommended section. I don't know why, because it's created by a different studio, came out 3 years later, and is of completely different nature in almost every single way. However, that is of no consequence to the YouTube algorithm, so I thought I'd give it a look, and boy was it strange. Sometimes uncomfortable, actually. Especially from, you know, a modern point of view. I am, of course, going to talk today, you've seen the title, about the Ducktators. Directed in 1942 by Franz Freleng, the Ducktators had a cast of Mel Blanc, Michael Maltese and John McLeish, all put under IMDb as uncredited cast. As for the full cast, we have people such as Leon Schlesinger as the producer, Carl W. Stalling for music, and film editing by Treg Brown. Also, he was in the sound department. There were various animators like John Carey, Carl Dalton, Arthur Davies, Izzy Ellis, David Hilberman, and in the music department they had Carl Stalling again and Mitt Franklin. So this one has considerably a lot more credits than the Terrytoons one did, and that is of course because it is created by Warner Brothers. Yes, Warner Brothers. The same people that brought you Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all the Looney Tunes cast, and all these great films in the future, also brought the Ducktators. So you know it's got to be good, right? Right? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. So, without further ado, let us look into the Ducktators 1942. So it turns out that this is actually credited as a Looney Tunes production, even though it doesn't feature any of the recognisable cast as of Looney Tunes. Let's see.
In a happy barnyard some years ago, a seemingly unimportant event occurred which was destined to vitally affect the future of that little world.
That is a human-sized cigar being smoked by a young duck, or I don't know, maybe it's a giant Brazil nut or something, I don't know what it is, but either way, someone should be watching that, because you know how they say caution may contain small parts? Yeah, apparently children of that age also go for large ones as well. Who knew? Okay, no, it is a cigar, my bad.
Mr. and Mrs. Duck were expecting.
That was good timing. The cat didn't even rattle yet, and she already knew that it was going to hatch. That is great motherly timing right there. Now, of course, this is the key moment. Our protagonist is going to be born. Now, as you know, this is going to be the epitome of dramatic subtlety, and is going to be very carefully introduced and very cleverly implemented into the story, without seeming too obvious or...
And so time passed. Hey, bud, not so fast.
Oh, all right. But time does fly, don't it, Johnny?
Time passed. The bad egg grew to duckhood, and with artistic aspirations dreamed of brush and palette. but ended up with only the brush.
They don't know art, and they see it.
His artistic efforts spurned, he soon turned to other endeavors.
Und vergiss nicht, you dopes, ich bin der aufgeblasene Frisch in Deutschland, in alle Europa, ja, in der ganzen Welt. My mama done told me. Say heil!
And there were some gullible ones who listened.
This is coming from a point of view that for people that could have avoided conflict, criticising a nation that was forced into it. I don't think that was necessary, Warner Brothers. I don't think that was necessary at all.
Especially one goose, more gullible than gooses. Geese, mice, goose.
The platypuses, or platypi, or platypeople. Well, you know what I mean.
I'm a sick heiler, too.
A sick heiler, eh? You saved yourself. You had 2 bad jokes.
That's alright, that's the old stuff, kiddo.
Sick heil! Sick heil! Sick heil, boy! I'm from South Germany.
And then you had a good one. Alright? We're back to square one. Okay? Strikes? Yep. I'll remove those. Keep it at this level, and I think we should be okay, Warner Brothers.
Tutte nuove dice! Tutti frutti, and all kinds of whips of cream and a wall of nuts!
I'm sorry, what? I'm pretty sure that Mussolini had more followers than that. I mean, now they're just making things up. I think they're trying to belittle the threat a bit or something like that, but no, you don't do that. If you want to belittle a threat, belittle the one that's actually threatening you the most, you know? Because you're making fun of Adolf Hitler already, which, granted, is a good thing to do anyway, but still, to be fair, you are belittling them at all because you made them ducks. You've already belittled both of them. They're ducks.
Has come to so erase all thoughts of peace from off this place? Have they forgot 'tis love that's right, and naught is gained by show of might?
All you needed was a shredder. All you needed was a shredder. Or just have him not sign it. By this point, the Treaty of Versailles had already been signed, hadn't it? Surely. I mean, by this point in history, certainly. But I have so many questions.
Then from out of the west came another partner to make a silly axis of himself.
A Japanese, a sapper man, sneaking on with a do. Just a Japanese, a sapper man. I'm a ripper crazy.
You would have been on strike 3, 4, 5, 6 through 10 probably at this point if I had deducted those already. Are you serious?
See too.
I guess it kind of makes sense from the American point of view to have mocked the Japanese for this. But do you have to do that? Do you have to do... Do you say soy FRIEZA? FRIEZA? What?
Oh, to apologizing like a Dickens. Oh, just a minute, FRIEZA. Oh, I am not a Japanese son of gun.
Okay, so it says I'm Chinese made in Japan. Okay, that's not too bad, but you know what? I'm not going to complain at this point. I think that's one of the lighter ones. You know, I think there's some humour in that.
With spreading clouds of war, once more the Axis marched toward dreams of further conquest.
1, 2, button on my shoe.
3, 4, shut honorable door.
5, 6, see him over the sticks.
7, 8, array them straight. 9, 10.
Begin again.
Who's that supposed to be?
Mercy me, regretful sight. O branch of peace, forestall this fight. Kind sirs, change your warlike. Oh, yes.
So, of course, they're all beaten up by a small dove. You know, as you do. Not a bald eagle, of course. That would be too obvious for this incredibly subtle short film. But a dove, of course, is perfectly capable of beating up several ducks that are approximately ranging from 3 to 6 times its size, maybe? Yeah, I think that's a good estimate. Of course, and then suddenly you see that the dove of peace is beating up people. The dove of peace is doing this. And then suddenly everyone is inspired, because we know that one small dove that would not stand a chance against those three suddenly causes an uprising. I guess the metaphor from that is that one small person can make a big change and inspire a bunch of people. Coming from this abomination of short film about ducks being the world's dictators that were actually threatening the world at the time of its production, the message does not carry across at all. And that was the same duckling that was listening to Mussolini before. What happened? What actually happened? That's the same duckling, I'm pretty sure.
I hate war, but once begun, well, I just didn't choose to run.
Of course, America did not choose to run at all during the war, did they? When obviously didn't choose to run, per se, but took them a while to contribute as well, which they were in their right not to, but they're trying to seem like the honourable ones, saying, oh, it was my duty from the beginning. I had to do this. Oh, America, the land of the free. No. That's not what happened. Was it?
So I can point with pride and say, there's 3 that didn't get away.
And that is indeed all, folks. Thus concludes the Ducktators 1942. I guess it's time for my conclusion. Final words, do I like it? Nope. Is it awful? Yes. Is it disrespectful? Yes. Did it fulfill its purpose? Probably. But it was all an advert in the end for the United States savings bonds and stamps. They could have chosen anything. They could have chosen overall military support, overall government support, just general everyday life things, but no, they chose to advertise for stamps and savings bonds. Why? Why is this their medium for doing so? Why was this their idea of it? I mean, again, it's disrespectful, none of it makes sense, and it's trying way too hard to satirise something. Yes, by all means satirise it, you're the Looney Tunes, that's what you do. But don't do it like this. And yes, okay, the Three Bears, the other thing that I reviewed, that doesn't make sense either. But that doesn't make sense in a creative and explorative way. It plays with the medium and thrives with it. People say that if Disney's classical music, the Looney Tunes is jazz. Well, Terry Toons apparently actually used jazz and they implemented it into their story. And yes, okay, the Bears had a funny Italian accent, but they're not trying to stereotype all Italians in there, whereas this one blatantly disrespects entire nations. I don't know if this is just a modern viewing, maybe we are a lot more worried about what we say nowadays, and especially since 1942, but there are a lot of things that would not have flown in 1990s here, let alone in 2018. So that's why, in conclusion, I don't think it is effective, I don't think it should have been created the way that it was, and I don't think that they should have prioritised savings bonds and stamps. It's just a shame that so many people got credited for this one, but then Terry Toons didn't think to do it back then for theirs, and theirs is so much better. And this is what YouTube recommends you watch after watching The Three Bears. You can see why one is a meme and one is not. And on that note, until next time, farewell.